In the distant future, in a galaxy very far away, there is a battle raging between good and evil, between Hellweaver and the Battle Guard. If Hellweaver wins, the multiverse will fall into a hell no one could ever imagine. So the only question now is, can they defeat her?
What's that? You want to be scared? Come with me. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Listen in the dark. It's more fun that way. This is Weekly Spooky.
Hello, my spookies. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for a little spooky in your weekly. I'm your host and narrator, Enrique Couto, and tonight's story is of the science fiction variety as we head to a universe of the future, far, far away, but yet somehow directly tied to our beloved Strickfield. But how will it all come to be? And who will win between good and evil? Well, you'll just have to listen to tonight's story to find out. But before we get to that, I want to say a very special thank you for listening to the program. We're about to head into spooky season, my friends, when everybody and their mother is going to join us to listen to scary stories throughout the season. But you, listening to this right now, are one of the diehards, one of the spookies like me, who wants to hear something scary every single week and beyond throughout the entire year, because Halloween is a way of life. So I want to say thank you so much for being subscribed, and I want to remind you, if you want to help out the program, you can head to WeeklySpooky.com and click on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can support the show directly and get 2 bonus shows every single month. Just go to WeeklySpooky.com and click on Patreon. And if you want to support us in a way that doesn't cost you anything, I totally understand. All you have to do is go to your favorite podcasting app, find Weekly Spooky, and leave us a 5-star rating to let other spookies know this is the show they want to give a go to. And I also want to remind you, we love to hear from you over at weeklyspooky@gmail.com. Send us a message, send us a story request. We love, love, love to hear from you. But now, my friends, it's about time to head into the future in outer space and battle the Hellweaver after these quick words. Last Stand by Rob Fields. I was looking at Empress Trinidar through my interdimensional wrist comp. Hellweaver has the reality sphere in her possession. It would only have taken her moments to breach our security protocols. Even your mentor was unable to halt her in her insane quest. My eyes went wide. You've got to be kidding me, Mom. Hellweaver actually defeated Master Shun Dao? The greatest of the entire K-Mai clan? Mom looked dismal. I was just as taken aback as you are, daughter. I narrowed my eyes. That means Hellweaver even got by Whisper. My sister? Trinidar gave me a look of sadness. Unfortunately, your sister, too, fell before Hellweaver. She was actually the last to fall before I, but she lives. I bit my lower lip. Then the 5 of us are all that's left. The Empress looked grim now. Now you understand why Queen Chai-Alan and I have agreed that it was time for the battleground to come together once more. You 5 are all that remains in the known universe who are capable of stopping Hellweaver from accomplishing her insane quest. The battle guard must not fall to her. Suddenly, Princess Gienge Ari came into my space. My brothers and sisters and I shall pass on valiantly if we should fail to counter Hellweaver. By our lives, we shall never allow her to accomplish her insanity on this vast multiverse. And you can believe that, Mom, I quickly agreed. Trinidar continued to show distress. You 5 are our last hope now, daughter. I know your mentor, Master Shon Diao, has heavily instilled the importance of life within you, one of your finest qualities. If we must destroy Hellweaver to save the multiverse, then so be it, I replied with finality. Hellweaver shall be upon you very soon, Trinidar warned. I know where you're going with this, Mom, but if we have anything to say about it, we will see each other again. I felt an icy cold tear run down my cheek. You are biologically my aunt, but you're the only real mother I've ever known and loved. My heart is yours. Trinidar gave me a soft, compassionate look. While you and Whisper were never born to me, you are both my young. My heart is yours. She looked hurt now. Yengiari, I know you will stand by my daughter, as you both feel the bonds of sisterhood. You must stand by one another now more than ever. The princess's expression had never faltered. Despair not, Empress. Thine daughter is sisterhood unto myself. You comprehend that my life is to her and hers is to mine. All of the battle guard are of mine. Of this I am solemn with thee. Then end communication now, and be of readiness, Trinidar commanded. Our communication ended. Yengiari put a gentle hand on my shoulder. When it came to a warrior woman like her, you wouldn't think that emotion was something she would show. This light blue-skinned, dark-haired warrior princess showed me many qualities that were prevalent in my former teammate and recently lost beloved, Halki. Though you couldn't really see her emotions in her blank, white eyes, her face said enough. We shall achieve victory, sister. Though I was still hurting emotionally, I knew that Halki would have wanted me to go on. I was a fighter, just like Yengiari. I glanced her way. Believe it. We turned to face the rest of the battle guard. Carly Richmond, one of 2 third-worlders, glared at us. With Carly, she always looked pissed. Also, she always wore her cheerleading outfit from her high school. As far as she was concerned, she had been a cheerleader since she was a little girl, and that would be how she would go. The fiery red hair and blue eyes always showed off her negative feelings. We're fucked, aren't we? Carly was one girl that Princess Gyangiari did not have patience for. When are we of Battle Guard never not fucked, third worlder? Bite me, she fired back. While she may not have liked Carly as a person, she did admire the raging inferno that burned hot within her. She was never afraid to speak her mind. Easy, you two, I interjected. Save your anger and rage for Hellweaver, not each other. Gyangiari's expression softened. You speak true, sister. Carly glanced over her shoulder to Max Considine, the other third-worlder. For years, these two had known each other. While Carly grew up to be one of the popular cheerleaders at her high school, Max would belong to outcasts who came to be known as geeks, and one who would never back down from a bully, no matter how threatening he or she might have been. Max showed determination that he wouldn't back down from Hellweaver once she would arrive. Max had such a strong will that he was able to harness the very magics that he played in his card games with his friends. But Carly would prove to be the most powerful magic to him. Carly seemed to be distressed as Max approached her. I've always been able to feel you, she snapped. You've told me, but I'll never fucking understand why you would love a bitch like me. You know you could do so much better than me. He wrapped gentle arms around her from behind. She breathed heavily, like she would turn around and strike him down. But she took hold of his arms and held him to her. You are the only one I will ever love, Carly. You know that. I will love you until our last days, No matter what. Carly began to cry softly. Max was the only one who could make her do that very thing. Max, you're such a fucking idiot to put up with me. She paused. What the fuck will you do with two of us? I don't. Max's jaw dropped. Oh my, are you? Carly smiled a little and nodded quickly. She took his hand and put it on her bare stomach. I'm carrying our daughter, Max, she choked. Almost 2 months. Max hugged her tight. She returned his affections. We have to beat Hellweaver, Carly. We have to. I noticed that Derek Salinger had been staring off into space for quite a while. How long? I asked him. We don't have much, Salinger replied. A matter of short minutes. Really doesn't give us much time to plan, Max said. No, Salinger agreed. We may have to battle Hellweaver with everything we have. We shall never relent until our battle guard has fallen, or Hellweaver, Princess Jian Giari declared to Salinger. I was probably the only one among us that knew of Princess Jian Giari's feelings toward Salinger. She may not have noticed that I had seen how she gazed at him. I felt she would have pursued him had she not known about he and my sister Whisper. Salinger was the strongest of us by far, in terms of strength. In a way, Salinger and Carly were two of a kind. They both possessed some form of rage. Carly's rage came as a blessing, from a goddess, while Salinger's was the result of bonding with an entity known as the Nejek Enyo. This entity fed on the evil energies of those he did battle with. In turn, he gained great powers from the Nejek Enyo. When it came to Salinger, I could easily see why Princess Jian Giari would have gladly given herself to him, if he would have only but asked her. She understood that he and my sister Whisper were with each other and never made a move to try and come between them. Jian Giari was the proud daughter of Queen Chai-Alan of Garanthan. Her mother had always wanted her to be a proper princess. She was of great royalty, and would inherit her mother's crown one day. But Jian Giari had other ideas. She was not opposed to succeeding her mother, but her father was a mighty warrior who had inspired her to strive for more if she truly wanted it. She trained under many of his best warriors and other masters. She was determined to be the best of all of her father's armies. When Jian Giari's father was on his deathbed, Queen Qialan held a contest to determine who would take his place as the commander of her elite guard. Do you know the origin story of Wonder Woman? Then you know how this story plays out. The only difference was that Jian Giari didn't wear a mask to hide her identity, while Queen Qialan hadn't approved of her only daughter being in the competition. She could not stop her. It was her mother's own word that all had the right to compete for the coveted commander of the elite guard rank. Empress Trinidar learned of these warriors and gathered them, placing me among them. Our task was to help preserve peace in our universe, and together the 5 of us were as one. We became the Battle Guard. The 5 of us stood together as Salinger pointed in the direction of Hellweaver. We could easily see her riding on the back of one of her winged demons in the cloudless, blood-red sky. We could even see the glow of the reality sphere in her hands. The reality sphere was an ancient artifact as old as time that would allow the bearer to shape the very fabric of reality to anything they could conceive. Hellweaver had uncovered this once-lost sphere and made a plan to transform the entire multiverse into a nightmarish realm such as her own, only on a scale many times larger. Hellweaver's winged demon had finally landed. Now it would become our sole purpose to keep her from reaching the Infinity Core, the very epicenter of the multiverse, and dropping the reality sphere into it, which would create the new reality she had forged inside of the sphere. We had to stop her, or die in our efforts. We waited and watched as Hellweaver took her time on dismounting her demon. She held the reality sphere in her arm as she saw the 5 of us who would be the last line of defense between her and the Infinity Core. I was the only one among us who had faced Hellweaver. Each time, she had bested me. While Salinger was the strongest of us physically, I was easily the most powerful. Even my own superpowers were limited against the demonic goddess herself. Is this truly all that remains to face me? Hellweaver asked, to no one in particular. Looking upon her, her appearance was much like that of a succubus. In fact, all succubi are her daughters. Hellweaver was certainly not a sexual creature, though she was every bit as beautiful as one. Her eyes were like 2 fiery jewels. Her horns were like blades that were attached to the sides of her head. In fact, the armor she wore around her torso and her lower region, as well as her shoulders, made her look as though she was a hybrid of demon and machine. Her hands were more claw-like than humanoid. Her claws themselves appeared to glow hot. She also had a long tail, with a very sharp point on the end. Even her metallic wings were perfect enough to allow her to fly gracefully and slice anyone unfortunate enough to get too close to her. I was unfortunate enough to be scratched by Hellweaver when I battled against her. Even though I'm bitterly cold inside, I could still feel the burning of her claws. My skin quickly healed up, but I've never forgotten that heat. Just seeing those eyes made me glad I was fast enough to be able to avoid her eye beams. Also, the fireballs and flames she could shoot from her hands and mouth. Even the end of her tail burned to the touch. I stepped in front of others and said to her, "Leave the sphere, get back on your demon and leave, you live. You stay and fight, you're as good as dead." Hellweaver's smile told us we were no match for her as she walked casually towards us. We readied our powers and weapons. "I have bested many times better than the 5 of you," Hellweaver said. "Even your beloved fell to me, Blue Girl." I choked up, but I forced my emotions back. Now was not the time for this. Hellweaver smiled again, telling me she knew that she had gotten to me. Halki put up a good fight against Hellweaver, but she... "Are you prepared to be swift for battle once more, sister?" Princess Jian-Gi-Ari asked. "Will your skills again prove grand for victory?" She was referring to my training in the Kuei Mai arts. In the beginning, Master Shaon Dihao treated me as his student. While he had never beaten me or admonished me for making mistakes, he was gentle, yet his lessons were hard. As time went on, I came to hold great respect and admiration for him. Likewise, he came to see me as his daughter, and called me so. He had trained many at Kuei Mai, but I was his first that was both alien and female. I had to fight and defeat him in one final confrontation in order to be given a ranking in the clan. When Empress Trinidar had given me to him, she asked him to create a Grand Master like himself. The only way I could attain this level would be to actually defeat my master in final combat. I defeated him in a hard-fought battle to become the first and only female Grand Master in the Kuei Mai clan. Master Shan Dao gave me the Grand Master's mark, which I first wore on my arm before I attached it to the front of my choker. I faced my battle guard sister. If I'm to die today, Jian-Gi-Ari, it'll be as both Kuei Mai and as a battle guard. "We are not fucking dying," Carly hissed with tightened fists. "You speak true, sister," Jian-Gi-Ari agreed with grim determination. "I'm not planning on it," I further agreed, and then my blue hair shimmered and glistened as a third-world fiber-optic Noel tree would. Our final battle was about to begin.
Don't go away. Weekly Spooky will be right back.
"Stand fast!" Salinger yelled. Hellweaver flew right at us. "Face me!" Suddenly, Salinger stepped up and threw 2 powerful fists at Hellweaver. The enemy was soon on her knees, but she would not fall. She lifted herself up only to feel Salinger's rage-fueled fists once more. I had never been on the receiving end of his fists thanks to my great speed, and I knew I never wished to be. Princess Jiangari stepped up and slammed one end of her laser bow into Hellweaver's face, into her stomach, her face again. Then she spun around and caught her in the throat. Salinger continued to punish Hellweaver so that she ended up on her knees again, but she still would not fall. Hellweaver was quickly on her feet again. She looked at us as if asking if that was all we had. I utilized my super speed and stepped in to deliver some hard fists and kicks. Utilizing my fighting skills, I sent Hellweaver flying backward, but again she remained on her feet. Max stepped forward. In his left hand he held some cards with different magic spells. With his right he unleashed his power. I quickly backed up and then ascended to the air to keep myself at a safe distance. 4 different colored energies crackled around Hellweaver. The enemy was again to her knees as Max's magics intensified. While Max's magic was very powerful, I wasn't sure how effective it would be against Hellweaver. The magics crackled and bathed Hellweaver in their powerful energies. Max's eyes glowed brightly as he fueled the magics with his powerful will. It didn't take long for Hellweaver to slowly move and return to her feet. Clearly, Max's projections were having little effect on her. I quickly assisted Max by firing ice powers from both my hands and eyes. Hellweaver slowly moved against our powers. Then I saw Max's beautiful, deadly better half step up. She had never been more enraged in her entire life. Her rage took form as dark energies crackled around her. Her eyes turned to a deadly deep shade of red, similar to Hellweaver's. Suddenly, her arms shot out and her hands released intense bolts of pure rage. Hellweaver found herself on her knees again. Princess Giari and Salinger could only stand by since they had no projection powers. Max suddenly stopped throwing magic. He was exhausted and would need minutes for his energies to peak before unleashing his magics again. I was focusing myself for another go at Hellweaver once the others were out of the way. "Leave her to me!" Carly yelled. "She's mine!" I hovered and watched. I also ceased my powers. Carly laughed crazily as her rage increased. We could see smoke rising from Hellweaver, to the point that she actually caught on fire. "Die!" came Carly's blood-curdling, insane scream. I never knew that a third worlder, let alone one with the rage of a goddess, could find so much hatred inside of her. Was this rage all pent up over time, or was she just a being of pure rage? "Just fucking die!" Carly screamed at the top of her lungs. In spite of how much Hellweaver burned, she absolutely would not stay down. She only sank to her knees and kept getting back to her feet. This only made Carly madder and madder. We could actually hear the humming coming from the energies that crackled from her. Her energies were now completely white, as in white hot. Carly was so pissed off now that I wasn't sure if any of us could calm her down. But Hellweaver refused to stay down. She refused to die. Hellweaver walked against Carly's power. She would not be knocked to her knees again. Salinger must have known too, because he walked up behind Carly and wrapped his arms around her midsection. Carly now screamed to the point where dark clouds suddenly formed over us. Then white lightning shot down at Hellweaver, and then I understood. Salinger was channeling the energies from the Nechk Enyo entity directly into Carly. Carly laughed maniacally as her rage grew even hotter still, but Hellweaver still would not go down. She continued to push against their combined energies. I knew she would eventually reach Carly and kill her, as well as her unborn child, if something wasn't done. I had to act immediately and hoped that my icy powers would be enough to protect me against Carly's. I dropped to the ground and ran toward Hellweaver. From there, I began releasing a barrage of super speed punches. "Never!" I shouted. "You will never reach the Infinity Core!" And then Hellweaver fought back. She raised her hand and began blocking Carly's rage. She put the reality sphere down so she could grab hold of me. Just like that. With one quick movement, she flung me away. Just as the fire on her body went out, she pushed forward until the lightning began to be redirected. Back at Carly. Salinger quickly let her go and tossed her out of the way. I ran and caught Carly before she hit the ground. Salinger stood there and took the return lightning. All it did was crackle around him for a few moments. Then he fell to his knees. Hellweaver reached him and swiped her claws quickly to send his head flying from his shoulders. "No!" I screamed. But there was nothing I could have done. As fast as I couldn't save both Carly and Salinger. Salinger couldn't take the feedback from Carly's rage energy, and it weakened him enough for Hellweaver to end him. The remaining 4 of us attacked her with everything we had. Again, the demonic goddess refused to fall. Max took a great risk by placing his hands on Hellweaver to work a binding spell. She immediately snatched him to her and kissed him full on the mouth. Suddenly, Max exploded. The force sent Carly, Gian-Giari, and I flying back. "Max! Oh goodness, no!" Carly shrieked. Gian-Giari and I also gasped as we saw Hellweaver holding the charred skeleton of Max before throwing it aside. Hellweaver moved and quickly leaped at Gian-Giari to land directly in front of her. Before she could raise her laser bow to counter, Hellweaver snatched her by her hair, turned her around, and sank her claws into her lower back. Gian-Giari screamed only briefly as Hellweaver grabbed her very spinal cord and raised her over her head, blood starting to pour down onto her. With her free hand, Hellweaver sank her claws into the back of Gian-Giari's neck, and then, with a minute display of her strength, Gian-Giari in half at the waist. Her blood soaked Hellweaver instantly before she tossed the 2 halves of the body aside. Hellweaver smiled at Carly and I now, both Gian-Giari and Max's blood soaking her. "And you 2 still dare to stand against me? Fools! Then I shall finish this." Carly and I unleashed our powers on Hellweaver again. When she took to the air, I also ascended. Then Hellweaver dove and flew right at Carly. I quickly dropped to the ground since I couldn't fly at super speed. I ran to Carly and took the wing attack that was meant for her. I shrieked as I felt Hellweaver's wing slice, burning me at my side. My icy blue blood began to seep out slowly. My blood was fast in itself and began to heal immediately. I would be fully restored in a matter of seconds. Unfortunately, I could not recover in time to prevent Hellweaver from finally grabbing Carly. "I shall show you what true power is, youngling." Hellweaver fired her eye beams directly into Carly's eyes to burn them out. Then she placed a finger into each eye hole and discharged such enormous power into Carly's body that she screamed in intense pain, until her body finally exploded in the same way that Max's had moments before. Both Carly and her unborn child died as the result of Hellweaver's merciless attack. Hellweaver had decimated nearly all of us, single-handedly. She turned to me now. "This is your last stand, Blue Girl. Surrender yourself to me, and I shall spare your life and allow you to rule at my side." Hellweaver had offered me a place by her side, time and time again, during many of our battles. "Never!" I screamed. I focused all the power at my command and unloaded it against Hellweaver. I watched as her body began to freeze up fast, but it just wasn't enough. Hellweaver still refused to fall. Powerful as I was, I just wasn't powerful enough. And then I saw the reality sphere she held. At that moment, I now knew how to stop Hellweaver. I turned my power away from her and shifted my eye beams to the artifact. "What do you possibly hope to accomplish?" Hellweaver demanded. I focused with all my inner strength to channel my icy beams into a single laser, giving it enough intensity in that concentrated, narrow beam to actually crack the reality sphere and make it dangerously unstable. And then I fell. Hellweaver was angered now. "You have breached the reality sphere. This is not possible." But she still refused to give up. Having come this far and so close, she still held the damaged reality sphere. Seeing that I was the only thing standing between her and the Infinity Core, she growled in grim determination and began a running charge directly towards me. Some of my strength returned instantly, and I stood again. All that was between our reality and whatever hellish reality she planned was me. I could never allow that to happen. My life for the multiverse. I channeled my inner peace one last time, the way Master Xian Diao had taught me. It was down to this final attack. As Hellweaver reached me, I fired one last concentrated icy laser beam from my eyes and directly into the reality sphere. My beam reached the very core, causing a massive explosion. Both of us were in the heart of it. Hellweaver screamed as her armor and flesh flew away from her body. That was all I saw as I was being lifted off my feet and hurling helplessly into the Infinity Core. I splashed into its cosmic waters and felt myself being bathed in the energies created from whatever was in the reality sphere and the waters of the Infinity Well combined. If this was finally my end, then I would die knowing Hellweaver had failed in creating her new multiverse and enslaving its people. The Battle Guard had defeated Hellweaver. I closed my eyes and embraced my death, knowing we had given our very lives to save the multiverse. I opened my eyes and discovered that the scenery had completely changed. I was no longer at the Infinity Core or submerged within its dark waters. I was now lying on my side. I stood to my feet and looked around my new environment. Was I still within the Infinity Core? I decided to consult my wrist comp and see where I was exactly, and I found that it had performed a self-diagnostic. There was a major issue that needed my immediate attention. I looked at the readout and saw that the peritoneum circuit had become damaged beyond repair. I felt my icy heart growing heavy now. The peritoneum circuit was what allowed me to easily travel throughout the multiverse and its infinite dimensions. It was the link to the master computer back at Battlestar Hall in Universe Zero. After reading the rest of the diagnostic information, the rest of the wrist comp's vast functions were still available to me. However, without the peritoneum chip, I was both lost and marooned on this new world, and whatever reality this was. I could fly upward and into space, and could even survive in its vast vacuum, but I'd quickly become even more lost if I couldn't find any other worlds. I sighed in despair and knew that I would have to become familiar with this world that I must now call home, at least for the time being. From there I started walking. My costume was damaged in the battle against Hellweaver. This was something the wrist comp could easily remedy. After initiating a few commands, it reconfigured my costume. Instead of repairing and restoring it to its original form, it was changed. Instead of a full-body suit, I was now wearing an athletic top and a matching bottom, complete with a pair of running shoes. My frigid white skin was mostly exposed now, probably to configure with the heat and humidity I now sensed. With my new costume complete, I soon reached a dirt road. I turned and started running at super speed. Shortly, I came to an intersection. When I saw the life forms approaching, I stopped to examine them. It was a male-female couple, possibly third-worlders, sitting atop what appeared to be a chariot. In front of the chariot were two beasts with long faces, lengthy bodies, a tail, and 4 legs. I was just as surprised to see the couple as they were to see me. When the male spoke, I found that I couldn't understand him. Unfortunately, with the peritonium circuit damaged, I couldn't use the wrist comp to translate anything into English, or any of the other languages I was fluent in. I tried speaking to them, but they couldn't understand me. No matter. I only needed to listen to them speak, or gaze upon their language for a short period of time before I would become fluent. When the couple saw that I wasn't malevolent, they allowed me to board their chariot and ride with them. The beasts pulled us until we came to the boundary of their village. By then I was able to speak what I came to know as English, which I learned was an alternate form of Anglish from Third World of Universe 0. I also learned the couple were not husband and wife, but brother and sister. Their names were Lucius and Norma Redmont. The year was 1822, and the name of the village we were crossing into was called Strickfield, in the region of Ohio, in the continent of North America. My new world of Earth would take some getting used to. I was already enjoying the vibrant colors, including the blue sky and the yellow sun. However, like the many other worlds I've encountered, it seemed this Strickfield village had its share of foul things that would prey upon humans living here. Even though I was lost somewhere in the multiverse now, I was still a superhero. My mission would never change. However, I would have to be able to blend in among the humans, for I was the only one among them with icy white flesh and long, shimmering blue hair. For now, the Redmonts have welcomed me into their household. From there, I would learn trades to make myself useful around their farm and village. So it seems, the village of Strickfield is my new home, at least for the present and unforeseeable future. Well, my spookies, it looks like the saga of the Hellweaver is really only just begun. So I guess you'll have to make sure you're subscribed, because you never know when another piece of the Hellweaver puzzle might just drop right here on Weekly Spooky. I hope you all enjoyed that science fiction flavored scare for you. I know I did, and I am very excited as we enter September to know that spooky season is really heading into full swing. And I want to remind you, in October we'll be releasing 31 shows in 31 days. So every single day there'll be something, whether it's a scary story, a horror movie review, or something even more devious. It'll be waiting for you right here, so make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcasting app. Also, hey, next week is my 38th birthday, so if you want to wish me a happy birthday, head over to WeeklySpooky.com and click on the contact. Send me a well wish. I'd love to hear from you all. I sure do appreciate it. And speaking of appreciation, I want to say an extra special thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who pay just a little bit more to hear their names at the end of the show. And they are Johnny Nix, Jenny Green, Amber Hansford, Brent McCullough, Karen Weemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. If you want to hear your name at the end of every single episode of Weekly Spooky, just head to WeeklySpooky.com, click on Patreon, and select the $15 tier or higher. Not only will you hear your name on the show through my silky smooth voice, but you'll also get all the other bonuses just waiting for you, including 2 special episodes every single month. But now, my friends, it's time for me to get back to work. There's a whole lot to do before we unveil 5 exclusive novellas and so many more episodes in October. So, for myself, for my producer Dan Wilder, my composer Ray Mattis, and my executive producers Rob Fields, Mark Shields, and Bobbletopia.com, I will talk at you later.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me.